CaprianoYourEstateMatters.com. My dad always said, no one gets out of this world alive. Hi, it's Margaret at Eamon Gantner and Capriano. Do you have a will? Eamon Gantner and Capriano, YourEstateMatters.com. The choice of an attorney is an important decision that should not be based solely on advertising.
This is the Gashouse Gang on 104.1 FM KMOX. Sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin comfort dealer. And by Anderson Hospital, a Newsweek World's Best Hospital. Now, the Gashouse Gang on KMOX.
The next one is swung on, and there's a fly ball right field, right to Sanchez. His home run put 2 runs up on the board for Miami. He makes the catch, and this ball game has come to an end. The Cardinals have been shut out for the 12th time this season, and they've been shut out in back-to-back games. Last night, Miami won it 5-0. Tonight, 2-0.
Well, here we go. We're doing it now, baby. It is trade deadline day for Major League Baseball, and that means for the St. Louis Cardinals as well, who have already done some stuff. They had the Eric Fedde trade from last week. They've executed a couple more since yesterday. To talk about that and what is coming next with the deadline at 5 o'clock today, Bernie Miklasz, he's with me. I am Chris Ranji. It is good to have you along. 314-436-7900, or if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, at KMOX Sports. It is the Gashouse Gang, so you can search us out and watch the show and like and comment. And if you have any questions or thoughts about the deadline and what the Cardinals have done so far, or what you think they might do, this is the place to talk about it today. So, Bernie Miklasz, let's talk about where the Cardinals are. Last night, I guess just about 15 minutes before midnight, we got the official press release that closer Ryan Helsley has been traded. So they have done exactly what we thought was going to happen. They have traded away their closer. There was a lot of interest in him, and so he is off now. And also Steven Matz. They have traded him away. Steven Matz going to Boston, Helsley going to the Mets. They get some prospects in return. So what are your thoughts on those two deals?
Well, mine is more of an overview look because my number one takeaway is that this was a clear signal of what direction the Cardinals are going in, which is, when in doubt, focus on the future. In other words, they weren't going to take like some marginal major league prospects, guys who might be on their team and contribute next year, but of no real magnitude. Chaim Bloom did a great job of drafting, and his development system in Boston was a huge success. He did that also at Tampa Bay. He's got an eye for this kind of thing, and he's has a really good record of identifying talent, even if it's not the most heralded talent, and sort of taking a lottery ticket on them. And that's what he did in both of these trades. And to me, it signaled something very, very obvious. This wasn't about the instant gratification of 2025. This was a focus on the future, because the Cardinals, whether they want to call it or not, are rebuilding. Now, when I say rebuilding, I'm not saying they're tearing everything down and starting from the ground floor and they're going to lose 100 games for 3 years. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this. They're going to try to pull this thing out of the mediocre middle. And the only way to do that is to continue to pump more young talent, developing talent into your system, with the hopes that a lot of it will pay off. And then when they're ready to go, you're going to have a much better team and you're going to be able to compete at a higher level. That's what this is all about. This was not about instant gratification. And in that context, I'm a little surprised by some of the reaction. I'm not sure what people were expecting.
Yeah, I didn't expect much in return, honestly, for anything, unless they were willing to trade a player who's got 6 years of control left, which maybe they are, but I don't suspect that's what they want to do. In my opinion, I don't know if there's anybody on this roster that should be off limits. I mean, this roster, I don't know if I'd want to part with JJ Weatherholt. Doesn't seem like the kind of thing you'd want to do, but somebody like that. No. But anybody that they've got otherwise, I think open for business, then that's the way they should be. And knowing that, Phil Maton has received some interest from the Blue Jays and the Rangers at least. Could be more. So he is likely to be dealt, I think, before the end of the day. But I guess we'll find out here. And then you have position players like Lars Nootbaar and Alec Burleson and Brendan Donovan have all drawn interest from other teams. Is it likely, Bernie, that any of those guys go?
I'd be surprised, but I can't rule it out. And Chris, I know that's a non-answer, but that's the best I got.
Yeah.
I think there is some room for creativity here. And the one thing I'd really like to see the Cardinals come away with, whether it's a trade today, which would be doubtful that they could get this, but in the offseason before 2026, is to acquire a young major league ready starting pitcher that they can plug in. I mean, the Cardinals rotation for next year on paper, as they say, does not look imposing. And they need a boost there. They really, truly do. I would think that at some point over the winter, they'll make a major effort to get one of those pitchers. Now, what that will require, I don't know, but that's maybe this is just a theory. That's probably, I would say, the reason why it's unlikely to happen now. I think the Cardinals want to kind of keep what they have and use that trade capital for something bigger during the winter.
I completely agree with you. I don't know what this team is going to look like in 2026, and it will be, as we've covered a bunch of times, a fascinating offseason and next season, because we don't know the future of 2027. We don't know if baseball is going to be headed toward a lockout or if they're going to get something done before that, but the CBA expires in December of next year. So all the signs at the moment are pointing toward a lockout, which is going to color how the Cardinals operate, how a lot of teams operate going into next season. My guess is that they will be less aggressive than maybe they would have been otherwise, but it may not be that dramatic of an effect. I mean, do you think it would be, knowing that the season of 2027 could be in danger, or at least a portion of it?
Man, that's a great question. I think that I don't know that it can really govern their decision-making process, especially if we're talking about whatever trades they are going to make would be to get young talent they're not making much money anyway. Would this mean Bill DeWitt would veto some idea of spending a ton of money on a starting pitcher? Maybe, but then again, if the player, he would do that in anticipation of lower revenue and lower streaming ratings or whatever. In other words, like what some of the repercussions financially would be of missing time in 2027. And I think, frankly, in St. Louis, where so many people are frustrated by the Cardinals now and they've lost paying customers, I would think the repercussions of a work stoppage that goes into the 2020 season will only alienate more customers. The Cardinals are in a really, really difficult, sensitive time now. But, Chris, not to circle back, but this is actually another reason why I think it's actually a good idea to rebuild, because in terms of where baseball's going, it's a little murky, but you can still go about your business of collecting young talent with the hopes of a payoff down the road. So that can stay true. That won't be affected by potential work stoppage. I mean, you can't make any deals during that time, but you know what I'm saying.
And I would say this, Bernie, I think maybe I'm wrong about this, and I have been saying it for several years, when I moved back to St. Louis, that I think as used to as we became as Cardinals fans, them always trying to win and never using the word rebuild, never even talked about that. It was, we're not going to do that because we're going to stay as competitive as we can. And it was working for years. And it's just been different the last couple of years. I have been saying that I think Cardinals fans would be lenient toward the organization if they decided, yeah, we're going to, maybe not a full tear down, but we're going to tear down as best we can and try over and start over, because we've seen it work with other organizations. The Astros did it successfully. The Cubs did it successfully. So it can be done, and it can be done really, really well. I think Cardinals fans are smart enough that they would be on board with that and understand what the organization is doing.
Yes. Listen, and here's the question I would ask fans. And by the way, I'm not criticizing fans, but I just think it's a good conversation. Fans entitled to be angry or frustrated, withhold their dollars. Right on, if that's what you want to do. It's your money and your time and your emotions. But I'm not sure why anybody would want to continue with the way things have been, where they're just kind of in the middle. They're sort of good. They're not that good. Okay, now they're sort of good. Oh, well, they're really bad. It's like, oh, they were a little better than we thought. Okay. Oh, they might have a chance to contend. They might be able to do this. Uh-oh, they're losing now. It's like, do you really want to keep that cycle going into the distant future?
No.
Or would you rather take the medicine, right? Take the medicine now and get the thing right, and it'll be worth going through a little bit more of this because you can see beyond the horizon and you can see that talent is coming. Or the other thing, try to be as smart as the Milwaukee Brewers and you never have to rebuild, even though you're not loaded with superstar talent.
Well,
you got to be smart about your personnel decisions. And even if those personnel decisions don't set off bells and whistles and trumpets.
Well,
look at how great they are, the Brewers.
Yeah, and Bernie, this team was that before. Cardinals were that before. They were the organization everybody looked at and said, that's who you want to be. You want to be just like those guys. And I think they can get back there, but you're right. It's going to have to, part of it will be taking the medicine. They're going to have to do it as an organization. We know big changes are coming, so that is good. And let's just hope those changes are fruitful. So this is the Gashouse Gang, and it is sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Also by Anderson Hospital. From ESPN, Jesse Rogers, Major League Baseball reporter, will be joining us when we come back, get his thoughts on the deadline and what is going to happen leading up to it next on KMOX.
At 5, when others are running out of steam, the Redbird Rush Hour hits the gas. Kevin Wheeler, Matt Pauley, and Bernie Miklasz bring sharp analysis, fresh insight, and no recycled takes. Real baseball talk for fans who know the game. Redbird Rush Hour, weekdays at 5 on 104.1 FM KMOX, the voice of St. Louis, the unrivaled voice of baseball.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-9834. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-9834. That's 800-575-9834. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Named one of Newsweek's world's best hospitals for 2025, Anderson Hospital is your hospital for life, delivering exceptional, compassionate care to families across the Metro East. From emergency services to specialized treatments, our dedicated team supports your health at every stage. Experience world-class care close to home. Discover the difference at andersonhospital.org.
He's gone! Cardinals fans, FanDuel Sports Network is your home of the Cardinals.
That ball was mashed.
And there are more ways to watch this season.
Holy cow!
Subscribe directly to FanDuel Sports Network to stream the Cardinals without blackouts.
How about that play?
Or watch through a TV provider.
Incredible!
Including DirecTV, Spectrum, Xfinity, Fubo, and more.
He got it!
Learn more at cardinals.com/TV.
Ball game! That couldn't have worked out any better for the Cardinals.
KMOX is everywhere. 1120 a.m. Streaming live on the Odyssey app and now at 1041 FM.
Trade deadline in Major League Baseball at 5 o'clock today. So we are just under 5 hours away from that. We will continue to keep you updated throughout the rest of the afternoon. If something does break, we're going to let you know what the Cardinals have done here. Time to go to the guest line here on the Gashouse Gang. And we welcome in Jesse Rogers of ESPN, covers Major League Baseball for that network, and he's with us now on KMOX. Good afternoon, Jesse.
Hey guys, what's going on? Busy day, huh?
Very busy day. Love the busy trade deadline day.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's not just here in St. Louis. They've done some work, but every team, it seems like, has done something today. Yeah,
for sure. And it's going to go all the way to the deadline, and even, some trades will trickle past the 6 Eastern deadline coming up. So it's going to be busy, and I think there'll be a flurry of moves in the last even few minutes.
Jesse, Bernie Miklas, great to hear your voice. Continue to admire your work. Thank you for being with us today. Instead of going right to the Cardinals, I want to ask you a broader view. Just the NL Central has been really interesting. And I'm going to give you a couple questions. Did the Cubs get enough, and is there going to be more added? Number two, are you surprised by the aggressiveness of the Cincinnati Reds? And three, do the moves made by the Cardinals convey to you that this is really Chaim Bloom is basically telling people, listen, we're entering a rebuild. We weren't in this for instant gratification. We want to collect as many prospects as we can.
Yeah, I'll go backwards. I think that was kind of the plan all along with the Cardinals, but not a full-on rebuild.
Right.
I think they've done a pretty good job of trying to thread a needle. If things went a little bit better this month, maybe they wouldn't be selling off some pieces. It was always a tenuous situation, whether they could contend or not. And it's clearly not going to be that kind of a season for them. So I think, they gave a lot of runway to their young players, which they wanted to do. They're figuring some things out. It is a transition year, but not necessarily a full-on rebuild. So I think that was kind of all along what was going to happen, and it's playing out that way with the Cardinals. The Cubs are not done. They banked a couple guys yesterday. They're going for a home run type of move by the end of the day. I think it would go down to the wire, whether it be Mackenzie Gore or Edward Cabrera. I think they're both long shots, but if they don't get a big one, they're going to settle for another single or double. They need to fortify their pen and their starting staff a little bit more. They have a 95, 96% chance of making the postseason. So you're trying to get incrementally better and fortify for October. I think there's some other teams that are pushing all their chips in. I mean, this could be the Phillies' last hurrah. This could be the Padres' semi-last hurrah, because they always have monetary concerns. So I think there's some teams that are all in. There's some teams that are kind of mostly in, and I put the Cubs in that category. And I can't even remember your third question.
That was about the Reds.
The Reds.
Oh, yeah. With Frank, it's like Bruce Bochy. Like, Francona didn't come back to kind of slow play this thing. They have a playoff caliber starting staff, and so you have to augment. So I'm not surprised. It's been a while since the Reds have been relevant. They haven't hit a grand slam in the trade situation here, but they're hitting their own singles and doubles. And I don't know what you think of Brian Hayes, but maybe it's a triple. I don't know, but I'm not surprised. Again, when an older manager comes back to manage, they're not doing it just to cash a paycheck. They want to win.
Jesse, we've seen what the Cardinals have done so far. Ryan Helsley has been traded to the Mets. They have sent Steven Matz to the Red Sox. Let me get your thoughts on at least how the industry views the return the Cardinals have gotten so far.
Yeah, I think pretty good. Prices are high everywhere. I'm not the prospect guru, but I don't think anybody so far has been ripped off. That's my take. I talked to our prospect guy a lot, Kylie McDaniel, and it's true to what's been forecasted weeks ago, a month ago, that this would be a seller's market. Prices would remain high, and any deals that are done, teams are getting some decent return. You just said, as a fan, you can't see it for a year or two or longer. The fact that Mason Miller got a third-rated prospect in all baseball is quite something. I always say closers are so valuable, at this time of year compared to December. They really are. Nobody cares about a closer in December. But in July, it's like the final piece. So I think they did well for Helsley. I think every team has kind of done well for its closer that has changed hands. And I think the biggest indication it's a seller's market is what the Mariners had to give up for Suarez. So so far, I think it really has been a seller's market. I think it probably will continue to be. And that's why I still think that the idea of trading Gore or Joe Ryan or even Edward Cabrera is a little bit of a long shot because nobody wants to pay that price. Those prices are exorbitant compared to what Suarez or Helsley brought back.
Jesse Rogers with us from ESPN. I wanted to ask you this, Jesse. Listen, I don't have to tell you, brother, the Nolan Arenado saga has been going on for months and months and months and months and months. And recently there was this like another flurry of like, well, he still could be traded. There's teams that could be interested, whatever. I don't see it. He's just, listen, Hall of Fame player and all that, but his offense is gone. It's just flat out gone. So the question I have for you, is there something that I am missing? Is there a team or two that would really want to get Nolan Arenado, especially if Bill DeWitt picks up much of the tab? How do you see this? Is there any shot at this?
Yeah, picking up much of the tab would be the very least they'd have to do. I checked right before coming on, knowing I was coming on with you guys. It doesn't sound like he's moving. What we've had 3 third basemen move, Hayes, Suarez, and McMahon. So it tells you kind of what's going on with Nolan. Any other year, he wouldn't have been the 4th guy on the list, right? He would have been one of the first guys. Of course, the no trade clause impacts it as well. It doesn't sound like he's going. Like I said, I got off the phone with someone just before coming on with you. So I don't think it's happening.
Well, yeah, I think Cardinals fans watching, that's sort of the move they would like to have seen made, just because it would have opened things up. Really, they wanted to see it during the offseason, but he didn't accept the deal because it would have opened things up for a couple of younger players. At this rate, though, and we've mentioned Alec Burleson and Brendan Donovan and Lars Nootbaar apparently are drawing interest. Do you think there's much of a likelihood any of those guys are gone before 5 o'clock?
I don't think so, but I think there is an outfield market. And if Mo/Bloom here are the right name back, like I said, kind of a seller's market, maybe you take advantage of that. I'm not going to say it's an impossibility, but you kind of see what the Cardinals are thinking with the moves they've already made. So I'm going to say there's a possibility, but I haven't heard anything specific. But there is an outfield market. There's a little bit of a musical chairs going on. Padres want a left fielder. The Mets want a center fielder. Who else? The Cubs could use a backup outfielder. Not that they would deal with the Cardinals. But so I'm not going to rule it out. But I haven't heard major chatter in regards to those kind of guys, especially the outfielders.
Jesse Rogers, listen, this is an in-progress question because the trade deadline isn't over, obviously. But let's just say up until this conversation and not taking into account what might happen later, to this point, tell us, please, maybe the 2 or 3 clubs that you think have improved themselves the most up until this point.
Yeah, I'd probably have to put the Mariners near the top of the list along with the Mets because of what they've done in their bullpen. But, Seattle is the place where home runs go to die. And they get, there's kind of not a joke, but there's a feeling like, and if you're in a pitcher's ballpark, okay, and 400 feet is like, a long way for a home run. You got to find someone that can hit one 420. Like you got to compensate for that. And Eugenio Suarez is a guy that can do that. Like he it doesn't matter that that's a pitcher's ballpark. He'll hit through it. And Josh Naylor's kind of a little bit like that as well. Not so much like Suarez. So I think adding those 2 bats to that pitching staff is a huge improvement. Never know what they're going to do. It's a roll of the dice always. And then the Mets just have fortified their bullpen in such a major way. I know Padres with Mason Miller did the same. It's interesting to see those teams fortify, especially the Padres, what is already strength. Mets not as much. But those kinds of moves are not to get to October. Those are moves for October. And that's the difference in compared to the old days when bullpens didn't matter. You fortified with starting pitching for now and October. But now starting pitching gets you to October. Bullpens win you in October. So I know what David Stearns and Stephen Cohn are thinking. They're thinking about October more than anything. Same thing with A.J. Preller. These are teams that have knocked on the door a few times in the playoffs but haven't completely broken through. So that's why I like what the Mets did. But for Seattle, they've got the starting pitch. I mean, if you have the starting pitch and you use that in October as well, and I expect Seattle to do maybe a little bit more in the bullpen also, but I would put them at the top of the list because of Naylor and Suarez.
Jesse Rogers of ESPN, you are the absolute best. We appreciate talking to you. Thank you for giving us time on a busy trade deadline day.
Yeah, it should be a wild finish. Great talking to both of you. Be well.
That is Jesse Rogers, covers baseball for ESPN. I got Bernie Miklasz with me, Chris Ranji on the Gashouse Gang. We're with you for another half hour here. Continue to talk trade deadline. Cardinals going up against it. They've been busy. There could be more to come. We'll talk to Dan Szymborski of Fangraphs. We're going to get the numbers perspective from Dan when we come back on the Gashouse Gang on KMOX.
Your home sold guaranteed, or I'll buy it. Hi, I'm Gloria Liu, broker owner at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And for over 20 years, I've been getting my home sellers the most money for their home and selling faster than the average agent. So when you're ready to sell your home or have questions, call me.
And I'm Debbie Monterey. For years, I've been telling you about Gloria Liu and why you should call her. Gloria has solutions and programs for every seller because she understands that every situation is different. Call Gloria and get your free instant home valuation. Choose from multiple cash offers or sell with certainty this summer because Gloria will guarantee upfront and in writing to sell your home at 100% of market value or she will pay the difference. Hey, the St. Louis market is shifting. Now is a great time to call and get to know Gloria Liu like I have. Call 314-325-6888 or visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. That's GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. Gloria and seller must agree on price and possession date.
Right now, it is 77 degrees in St. Louis. The AccuWeather Real Feel is 85. Tomorrow going to be nice. Looking at 81 for a high and sunny. The weather brought to you by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning and Electrical.
Jerry Kelly swings next day installs no matter how late you call. And because they work later every day, they're faster when your equipment just needs fixing too.
That's MVP material.
Yep, simple fix or a full install. Nobody gets you comfortable faster.
JerryKelly.com. Home title theft. It's on the rise and it's devastating if it happens to you. Listen to the alarming words of an actual home title thief.
I don't need to know your date of birth and social security number. All I have to do is go to public records, create a document, and file that document. And then I can borrow against the house or sell the house. You may have no clue until you find out that your house has been sold or till several loans or several banks are foreclosing on you.
For pennies a day, Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier of protection around your home's title with 24/7 monitoring. The instant they detect any tampering, you'll get an alert. And that's bad news for home title thieves. So when's the last time you checked on the title to your home? Find out if you're already a victim with your free title scan and complete title report. $100 value free with sign up. Just go to HomeTitleLock.com and sign up in minutes. That's HomeTitleLock.com. HomeTitleLock.com.
You've heard of Old Town Donuts, but did you know they were voted the best donut shop in America? That's right, and they've got 2 locations right here in Florissant and Cottleville. Stop by Old Town Donuts today and see why they're the best donuts in the country.
Tomorrow night, the Cards, the Padres. Cameron Total Access 745. Cardinals Radio, 104.1 FM, KMOX.
Elsley delivers. Check swing. Did he go? Yes, he did. He swung at it. Helsley punches out Olson.
The pitch by Drop strikes out swinging, and Matt struck out 4 in the inning. But a wild pitch allowed a base runner on the first strikeout.
Gashouse Gang on 104.1 FM KMOX. Bernie Miklasz, Chris Ranji along on this trade deadline day. It happens at 5 o'clock. The Cardinals have made some trades already. Could be more to come. And we bring in senior writer for Fangraphs, a contributor for ESPN as well, Dan Zimborski joins the show on KMOX. Dan, good to have you.
Thanks for having me. How you guys doing today?
Doing good. Bernie Mikla's here, and Dan, we got a similar last name in terms of heritage, and we both hail from the holy land of Baltimore, Maryland. So Dan and I are tight, even though he doesn't live there anymore, and I don't live there anymore. But anyway, how you doing, my brother? Everything good?
Yeah, I have trade deadline brain, which I've seen like so many relievers being traded. It's like when you go out for breakfast and you get 3 pancakes. And they're really thick pancakes. You get to that third pancake, you're like, oh God, there's a whole nother pancake to go. That's kind of how I feel on trade deadline day after about 50 relievers have moved from team to team.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, for those who don't know, and you should know, Dan is whatever the word you want to use. He's either the creator, I think he'll live with that, he'll go with that, of the ZiPS forecasting method, which is like a go-to for writers and even team executives. During the off season, as we're getting into spring training, where there's projections for every single player, and it's a fascinating process. But it's always it's kind of a good checkpoint to look at your team. But I wanted to ask you this, because ZiPS is a very big deal for people to study things. But does the trade deadline, can ZiPS be applied in real time to the trade deadline, or how do you handle that?
Well, generally every year what I do is right after the trade deadline, I do a simulation of the rest of the season as it stands after the trade deadline. And then I do another one of it where I unwind every trade that was made for like the 2 weeks prior to the trade deadline. And I try to get a kind of an idea of who got helped the most, who was hurt the most. Generally speaking, there's kind of a ceiling where teams can realistically improve their playoff probabilities. Usually about 15%. It's hard to do more than that, simply because so much of the season has happened and it's not football. There's no one anywhere in baseball that's as important as a quarterback. And sometimes the projections work and sometimes they don't. Ask the Tigers last year about that.
That's right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, Dan, is it unfair then to ask you to ballpark it for us, what you've seen the Cardinals do so far?
Well, I mean, from a projection standpoint, it's not a huge impact. I do like what they did. I know that people might say, well, they didn't get any top prospects for Helsley. But the truth of the matter is there was 2 months of him remaining in St. Louis. You're not going to get the same prospects that the A's got for Mason Miller, who is signed or under cost control for 4 more years, which is a very big deal. But they got guys who you can see helping the team at some point. Nate Dome, Frank Elisalt, they're probably both going to end up as middle relievers, but you can always use a reliever, as you've seen the last couple of days. And Jesus Baez still trying to sort out his position. He's interesting. And I think a lot of times at the trade deadline, you're not going to get the number 1 prospect of most teams, but you'll get interesting guys. And that's, as long as you could do that, you probably came out okay.
Dan, I want to ask you something related. You're a longtime observer of the way franchises are run, front offices are run. Of course, Chaim Bloom, who's had a lot of impact even in the front office now, not in the draft approach with Randy Flores. For the first time in a long, long time, Cardinals went after power arms. Even in these trades they've made, these are future moves. And Chaim Bloom's identified guys like, okay, I want to get these guys. I see something there. Given his success with Tampa Bay and with the Boston part in terms of drafting and developing and rebuilding a farm system, should Cardinals fans be encouraged that he will sort of be leading this franchise sort of out of this mediocre middle they've been in for a while? And it might take a little while, but it looks like he's got a game plan. And how does his background match up with that game plan in terms of turning more towards the future?
Oh, I tend to be positive about him. It's kind of an approach that the Astros take with pitchers. The Astros built the rotation not from having a bunch of elite prospects, but the Astros, going back to what I said about interesting players, the Astros have always had a lot of raw pitchers who do something well, and they try to turn them into pitchers. You look at the Red Sox system, and they do have guys like that. They do just have a kind of a nonstop parade of those guys. And of course, the Rays did as well for a long time. I think that Bloom kind of got a bad rap in Boston. I think he kind of took the responsibility for things that weren't really on him. But that's a whole thing for another day. So I do think that he has a positive influence on the organization, and I think that you do see that when you talk about like Ellis Salter Dome. He's probably personally familiar with Blaze Jordan also. So I think what I've seen, I'm positive about, I guess I just say.
Dan, is there an organization that you can see the Cardinals right now trying to model? Are they trying to do their own thing? Or is there a team you think they should be trying to model?
I think there are some sense of Boston in there. I think St. Louis, at its core, the Cardinals are a fairly conservative organization. They don't really take wild gambles. They try to just slowly build up what they have a solid team on the field, a lot of players who are versatile. And you see some Tampa Bay in there. You see some San Diego in there to a degree. Versatile players who you might not know what to do with them yet, but you'll kind of figure it out because no team's ever had a problem with, we have too much talent. So I like where the Cardinals are going, and it does help that they are in a division where no one's going to spend $300 million a year on payroll. And that does make this kind of strategy more useful. It's harder to pull that off when you're in the same position, in the same division as like the Dodgers or the Yankees.
Final few minutes here with our friend Dan Zimborski of Fangraphs. Go check him out at Fangraphs. And also, I'm going to make my pitch. I've been a member of Fangraphs for a long time. You pay a yearly fee. It's very reasonable. You get a lot for it, but also you enable Fangraphs, which is valuable, to continue to add talent, add analysis, update the technology and all that stuff. So I wanted to get that in there. Dan, I tell Cardinals fans all the time, before you worry about trying to be the Dodgers or whatever, try to worry about becoming the Brewers. And what I wanted to know from you, my friend, is that the Cardinals had the devil magic. It's gone. The Brewers have it. What the heck happened? And how do you explain Milwaukee's incredible success? And this has been going on since 2017. They've been better than both the Cardinals and the Cubs.
The Brewers are very good. The thing I would say that they're great at is it doesn't always feel good when they trade some of the players, but they have a pretty laser-like focus on what a player is likely to do in the future rather than what they did in the past. So they look at a player like Devin Williams, and when he's traded, fans understandably are kind of sad, like, are we a farm system for the Yankees? But from their point of view, they look at Devin Williams and say, we already probably got the best part of Devin Williams' career. The best things that he'll ever do have probably already been done for us. And that makes it easier for them to move on. And you see that with trades like this. They lost Corbin Burns, but they have Joey Ortiz for 6 years. They're pretty aggressive with how they give chances for relievers. They don't count anybody out. Anyone who pitches well in the minors, they're going to try you in the majors at some point. There's no, he's a quadruple A player. He's going to be an organizational guy. They use everybody that they have and never give up on players. And that sounds kind of cliche, but it is an important thing. And it's things that teams generally do better than they did 30 years ago, where a guy got a rap as a AAA guy, and that was it.
Dan, so about this, or along these lines, Craig Counsell is no longer the manager of the Brewers. He's been with the Cubs now for a couple of seasons, and he's considered one of the better managers in baseball, and they haven't skipped a beat. I mean, they're still, Brewers are still right there. So I use him as an example when we talk about Ollie Marmol here in St. Louis. Because, of course, the fan base wants him fired, or at least some people want him fired because things aren't going as well as they wanted to. And I push back against that. So how do you, as a numbers person, how do you assess the job that a manager does, and in particular what Marmol's done here?
Well, on a fundamental level, a lot of what a manager does is stuff that we don't see. Baseball really isn't as tactical a game as some other sports are. It's a strategic game. It's a long haul game. So that there's a lot of just managing people and personalities. Marmol, I kind of see in the middle, and I can see both things. He kind of got blamed for things that he had nothing to do with in 2023, because there's that tendency, whenever the team's going poor, it must be the manager. You saw that in Baltimore with Brandon Hyde, like, oh, well, the GM doesn't want to be responsible, so it was the manager's fault. So I think there is some of that. I tend to be of the position, and this is probably the minority, that if you don't love a manager, you should probably be looking for the manager you love, because there are a lot of great baseball players or baseball people who would be good managers. And I think you have to look at a manager and say, is this the guy that we want to be, married to for the next decade or so? And if you don't have that love connection, then maybe you move on. I think one part that's a big deal, and of course I don't personally see it, is how well a manager interacts with the front office staff, because these front offices put together a lot of data. They have a lot of people who are deciding things. There has to kind of be a good relationship between the front office and the manager. But I guess I'm kind of hedging. Marmol's kind of in the middle for me. There's some good, there's some bad, but some of it just really isn't my business, I guess.
Yeah, so just along these lines here, because we talk about managers getting the best out of their players or not. Is there a Cardinal on this team, or maybe a couple of them, that are underperforming to a level that surprises you when you consider the projections you had for them?
I am. I'm mixed when it comes to Jordan Walker. Jordan Walker is one of those guys who never had great projections, but the projections always showed some upside there. And I still think the organization is just trying to figure out exactly what to do with him. I think sometimes they put him in the situations where he wasn't quite ready for. But I don't even know the answer to that question. Jordan Walker and the problems they've had kind of developing him are like probably my biggest current worry. Otherwise, I think the roster is used pretty well. They're very flexible with Brendan Donovan. They weren't scared to let Wilson Contreras play first base, even if that reduces his value, because they felt good about the other catchers they had. I think, generally speaking, based on the personnel on the field, I think it's being used in a pretty solid way. There's not a lot of real, this is awful in there.
Good stuff there. And we may get back in touch with you when, we're heading to the off season. What comes next for the Cardinals? How do you think their position, things like that. But it's always great to talk to you, Dan.
Always fun, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, that is Dan Zimborski, senior writer at Fangraphs. You can read his work there. And as Bernie mentioned, the Zips projection, that's been out for a long time. And it is a really good tool, especially if you like to dive into the analytics, the advanced stuff, and look at numbers like that. Dan is really, really good. Bernie Miklasz, Chris Ranji with you on the Gashouse Gang. Bit to go here until 1 o'clock. Still keeping an eye on the trade deadline. Cardinals have made moves earlier, trading Ryan Helsley and Steven Matz. There is likely more to come before the day is over when the 5 o'clock deadline hits. But Bernie, before we hit the break, let's talk a little bit about our friends at Saliga.
Oh, my pleasure. The Miklasz family's been calling Saliga Heating and Cooling for about 16, 17 years. And we were late to the party because Saliga has been helping St. Louis families out multiple generations going back to 1927. It's the same Saliga family, and Saliga bigger and better if that's even possible, but he has. And you should put your trust in Saliga Heating and Cooling with that track record. That tells you a lot about their credibility, their trustworthiness, their knowledge, their professionalism. And I can vouch for all of that because we've been calling them for a long time, and we've been delighted by our experiences because Saliga Heating and Cooling, led by Dan Saliga, they don't try to upsell you. They don't try to hustle you, get you to buy some expensive equipment. In our experience, they look to save us money. You know why? In part, so they want your business. They want to keep you as their clients. So they're going to treat you right with honesty and integrity. And they also have this Saliga's Priority Club. It's a maintenance plan. It's going to save you money by extending the life of your current equipment. You also get priority scheduling and have the comfort of knowing your home is safe. Family owned and operated for nearly 100 years, Saliga financing options, and still sets the standard for most trustworthy customer service. Go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com for more information.
Don't get lulled into believing the IRS is getting soft. It's just the opposite. Hi, this is Lance Story with the Lance Story Law Firm. We are being told by IRS collection officers that their higher-ups are demanding that they get more aggressive than ever. So don't ignore them any longer. Level up. If you have unfiled returns, unpaid taxes, levies, or liens, call the Lance Story Law Firm today and let us get between you and the IRS. We'll protect your rights, including your right to appeal or even your right to take the IRS to tax court. Remember, IRS problems are legal problems, and they need to be handled by an expert attorney team who's done it for decades. So call the Lance Story Law Firm today. We're local. Our office is right here in St. Louis, or visit Lance, DRURY, law.com to schedule your free consultation with your local tax resolution law firm, the Lance Story Law Firm, 314-260-6120.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Get ready, St. Louis. Two acclaimed performers will headline a summer finale on the Muni stage Thursday, August 28th. International music icon Diana Ross and multi-Grammy Award-winning artist John Baptiste. And this is your chance to win a premium VIP experience to see the show. VIP includes a pair of box seats, a pair of VIP pre-party tickets, free drinks at the intermission bar, and a free parking pass. Register now online at KMOX.com/contest for your chance to win.
SNL Coin. We buy gold and silver coins, silver and gold jewelry. Also buying gold-filled and silver plates. Before you sell, call SNL. 314-544-3600. 314-544-3600. SNL Coin.
Everyone needs to have at least one person in their corner in life. When you don't, it's an extremely lonely and frightening place to be. But knowing you have that one person gives you peace and hope. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Since 1988, myself and my firm have been in so many corners for so many clients for so many years. We became the largest injury firm in the world for a reason, and it's not even close. We fought like hell for you. We fight the bullies, automobile insurance companies, the makers of unsafe products, medical providers who injured or killed their own patients. It has been such an honor and made my life complete. If you ever need us, it's easy. On your mobile device or computer, visit forthepeople.com, and then we get to work 24/7. Whether you're hurt in a car crash, injured on the job, or have questions about your Social Security, we're here for you. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Past results afford no guarantee of future results. Every case is different and must be judged on its own merits.
Now back to the Gashouse Gang, sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling and by Anderson Hospital on 104.1 FM KMOX.
Gashouse Gang is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com, and by Anderson Hospital. It is the Gashouse Gang, as I mentioned. Bernie and Ranji with you just for a few more moments. The Cardinals, let's see, they have made deals already. As we mentioned, Ryan Helsley has been traded to the New York Mets, and we've seen Steven Matz go to the Boston Red Sox. The Eric Fetty thing happened last week. So pitchers on the move. Could see Phil Maton going. I would like to see now what happens next, Bernie, and I know you do too. We don't know what it'll be, but what do you want it to be?
Listen, I'm not expecting anything like, wow, I didn't anticipate that. I really didn't. So I'm just going to sort of keep it simple. Fully expect Phil Maton to go. But to me, and I've been talking about this, writing about this for 2 or 3 weeks. Jojo Romero has got, I would imagine, when we're seeing teams just in a feeding frenzy for relievers, Jojo Romero, I have to believe, has outstanding value on this trade market. Here's why. They made an adjustment to his delivery in late April. And Chris, since April the 27th, right? And he's pitched a lot. The dude has an ERA of 0.36. He's had 15 inherited runners. None of them have scored. And if you go back like his last 10, 12 games, right? He has a strikeout rate of 43%. He crushes left-handed batters, and he's pretty good against right-handed batters. And the topper, he's not a rental. He's got a year left before he can become a free agent. The Cardinals have to trade him if they get a great offer for him. And I got to believe there's an excellent market for him because of that year of control.
It's an excellent point, and I don't know what their consideration is for 2026, and if they're thinking, well, we're going to need that piece in the bullpen. We have to, because if we want to be competitive, we'll need as much help as we can get. And this is why I agree with you on this. To me, everybody should be on the table. When you're making moves right now, and we know the transition they're going through, we know what the intent is, or the intent should be. There isn't anybody on this roster or even 40-man roster that I think I would stay away from. I mean, and especially if they got value coming out of the bullpen, knowing you mentioned his numbers since April 27th. That means for a full month, he wasn't particularly good. And I remember us talking about it in the first couple of weeks of the season, that, man, he doesn't look right. He doesn't look like the Romero that we are used to. There is that possibility that because of the nature of being a relief pitcher and the volatility of it, that maybe next season there's 3 months of that from him. Maybe there's 4 months of that from him. Maybe he's just not the same guy next year. So while his value is what it is right now and he is effective, I am in total agreement with you. If they can find a good deal for him, and I would think they would. I mean, Bernie, they're not looking at him like, man, we have to have him for next year because we plan to contend, are they?
No, they can't have that attitude. I think they could get a lot for him. And to your point, relievers also break down physically. It happens a lot, right?
All the time.
And I think you never know. You're absolutely right. You never know. Maybe his performance just isn't the same next season for whatever reason. But they spotted that mechanical flaw in his delivery. They straightened him out, and he's been a different pitcher. So they got to take advantage of an opportunity like that. They can't sit and let it go by.
You can't sell any higher than what he is right now.
That's right. That's exactly right. So we'll see. Maybe there's a surprise. We had a question. It looks like, Harrison Bader got traded to the Phillies.
Yep.
And people are wondering, and thank you for all of you who submit great questions and everything. We appreciate you very much. Does this increase? This is from Amy Youngman. Does this increase the chances of the Cardinals keeping Nootbaar around? I think there's some teams that are interested in Newt, but there's two factors, Amy. Number one, he gets hurt a lot, and as we speak, he's on the IL. He has begun a rehab assignment, but still, lots of injuries since the start of 2023. Number two, maybe his stock is down because he is having, to this point, his worst major league season as a hitter. And number three, I don't know what the Cardinals would be asking for him. I mean, are they setting the price too high? I mean, I'm not saying they are. I'm just covering some of the variables here. But he's still a StatCast guy, and a lot of front offices love that about him.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen with him either. This is going to be an incredibly interesting 4 hours. We are just over 4 hours away from the trade deadline. KMOX is going to have you covered for all of that. And then Redbird Rush Hour is going to happen at 5 o'clock. And Bernie, it is my understanding you'll be returning for that.
Yeah, man. I live with KMOX in my home office, right?
Yeah, you better.
So I don't hustle downtown and actually sit there in the office, but then I could never get any of my other work done. So anyway, love being with you, Ronch.
You're the best, man. So Bernie Miklasz, he'll have you at 5 o'clock for the Redbird Rush Hour. Matt Pauley will be with him at 5 o'clock. As I said, significant because that's when the deadline expires. So whatever the Cardinals do, we will know about all of it by then. So 4 hours until then. Matt Pauley will continue to keep us updated throughout the rest of the afternoon. If something happens, you don't have to go anywhere. You wonder what the Cardinals are going to do, and if you leave, are you going to miss it? No. Yes, if you leave, you'll miss it. So just stay here. So Pauley will keep you updated. Redbird Rush Hour, 5 o'clock, and Sports Open Line after that. This is the place to be as the Cardinals approach the trade deadline. That's Bernie Miklasz. I'm Chris Ranji. Thank you for listening to the Gashouse Gang. Back with you tomorrow at noon on KMOX.
Charlie Brennan with Dr. Colleen Bosler from the Audiology Center. What can people